Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Night 5 and Episode 5 of Band of Brothers and our 20th anniversary review. Tonight, a new and good friend of ours is hosting, and I want to welcome both to the fellowship and to the review crew, the amazing Vito. Vito,
Hello.
our technical person and the guy that's been helping us pretty much since the beginning, a good friend. You know him for his anime, but he's also a heck of a historian and a guy who loves Band of Brothers, and that's Gogo13. Evening.
Evening to you. Thank you.
Hey, and of course, our good friend. You see him a lot in the chats. I saw him about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I said, this is a guy I got to fit in someplace. He was able to do Friday night. I appreciate it. I know Fridays are hard for everybody, but I know they were for you too. Brightest day, welcome. I'm glad to finally be doing something with you, man.
Thank you for having me, Pat. It's a pleasure to be here.
No problem. And of course, our good friend, we know him. He's a buddy of Jolly and of Puffs, but he's joining us tonight for his love of history and his background and personal attachment to World War II especially, and that's Snowdub. Welcome, Snow.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. It's an honor and a privilege.
No problem, buddy. Glad to have you. And, of course, another buddy of ours who went through and had to go through our other good friend, just another red shirt to get down and find him, and that's our pal Wakedown. Wakedown, once again, it's good to see you. I'm used to seeing you on Friday nights, but I'm glad you could carve out an hour or so for us tonight. Welcome, sir.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about such an amazing series, and I think we're going to have a good conversation.
No problem, buddy. Glad to have you. I just wanted to take a second and bring everybody up to speed. We're basically at the midway point here. We've seen a lot of what's going on with Easy Company, both from their training up through the D-Day landing and the battle that went on in Normandy. Operation Market Garden not going so great for them. And very interesting. Vito, what's the name of this episode? Do you remember?
Go.
You remember the Crossroads, and it's interesting that that's episode 5.
Sorry.
So that's okay, because that's kind of where we are right now. We're going to see a lot. Just tonight alone with Easy Company, they're going to go through 3 different leaders in one episode, and it shows you the chaos of war that's going on and everything. A great episode, an intense episode in some ways, but in other ways, just a real mindful and almost, I would say, I don't know if you guys agree with this or not, but maybe the most cerebral of the 10 episodes, right? It's a lot of Dick Winters being real reflective of what's going on and everything, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. I found it was a good mesh of both the action but also the brilliance that goes into not just the writing of the show, but them taking that real life history and putting it on the screen.
I agree.
Yeah.
Damian
Absolutely.
Lewis is an actor I love to see on screen, and his acting style fits the need of this episode really well.
Absolutely. All right, gentlemen, I'm going to come in at the end, and we're going to say some thank yous, talk a little bit about next week, but I want to turn this over to you guys. Enjoy yourselves, have fun with it, and like I said, very interesting episode with a lot to cover, and I'll be in the chat if anybody needs anything.
All right. Appreciate it.
See you soon, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, guys, thanks so much. I just met a few of you here about 3.5 minutes ago. We were joking around, acting like tools. I'm not going to do that for this because this is a very serious topic. Watched the episode twice now with Gogo. And what I got out of it was this. Okay, first of all, Tom Hanks directed this episode, right?
Yes.
And it's this whole project. It's terrifying when you look at it, right? But how he presented it is such an art piece that you feel the man's pain when you feel like you're even though you're not there, you feel like you're there, and if you would not want to be there. I mean, these guys went through absolute hell. And the episode starts off with something that was really, really important that stuck with me. It was leadership. Okay? You had a group of, veterans sitting there saying, some guys you wouldn't follow into a swimming pool. And that's so true. That's I believe that's why the good guys won. Okay? Because if you have the proper leadership, and you could see that in this episode with Dick Winters moving up and in the ranks, you could see that they could see that this man is a tactician. He's playing a chess game, and he's winning. He's doing the right moves. Where the Germans have, where the Germans. I mean, you saw at one point they threw hell at the Americans. And they. Okay, we'll get into it. So, starts off with Winters drinking a nice cup of no. What was it? Who gave him the piss?
That's right. They get called into.
He gives someone
else. They
get
get called
the
into
piss.
regimental headquarters, and
Right.
His buddy Nixon is there sleeping. He can't wake himself up. Doesn't want to get up, but for whatever reason, he instead of going outside to take a leak, he decided to take a leak in his cup, and he had the cup thrown on him to wake him up. So that's a hell of a way to wake up. And I do want to acknowledge the people in the chat here real quick. Rambling is here. Welcome to you. Good luck to you on everything. Zax is here. Just another red shirt's here. Dave Bob, good to see you. Purple Valkyrie, good to see you. Pacific 414, hail to you. Glad you're here tonight. Castlevania or Games, Movies, and Castlevania R Us. Glad to have you here too. And for everybody else that comes in later, welcome. Yeah, the opening to this is definitely one way to wake yourself up, to have your own bodily fluids thrown back at you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd ever forgive somebody for that. But again, look at what I got out of the episode was how important cigarettes are. These guys
especially
just
back then.
It was just like you got smokes, especially with what you're going through. But yeah, what a way to wake up. There he sparked up, just to show us if he was nice, he'd hand it out to all of us. But whatever, okay. I'd smoke too, but my wife would kill me.
I think the lighthearted nature of that exchange speaks to just how much these guys trust each other and how much they mean to each other, that they can just, that seemingly
literally like brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's and there's a couple of moments like that where there's these lighthearted exchanges between all of the stress and the hell that they go through, and it just kind of helps bring them back to center.
I think that's the thing is, we've all gone to, sadly, funerals and how much they suck. And sometimes you do need somebody will make a joke just to break up the thought pattern of just sorrow. So being in a position, and I've never been in a position of being in battle with like those men, but you could just tell that was to alleviate. You need something like that to alleviate the hell.
You have to have something to break it up a little bit. You can't go 100% balls to the wall, constant. You can't do that. It takes its toll, and we do see what happens to soldiers when they don't get that break, or if they're in battle for 3 consistent days, how sleep deprivation and everything else can cause a problem. So yeah.
Everybody's different. Everybody, everybody's different. Everybody behaves differently. Some guys, I remember it was watching some guy's channel really quick, and he was a special forces guy, and he was in Afghanistan, and they were in a firefight in the mountains, his crew, for well over 3 days, and his men were so exhausted, okay, that he had to hand feed them like birds. Like he would go up and feed them, you know. And I just thought these guys are just, they're warriors, you know, absolute warriors, you know. And that's what Band of Brothers, you watch it, you're like, these guys are just, you know, they care for each other. They you know, what was it when they I don't want to start off, but you could just even tell with one casualty how much it bothered Winters. Just one casualty.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and we do see that with them hitting the Germans. It's being in a position of leadership and having to make the calls to send people potentially most likely to their deaths. That's something that it takes incredible fortitude and a spine of steel in order to do. So
yeah, it was
like
sorry, go on.
I'm going to say this episode, as mentioned, is very reflective in a lot of ways. It has great action in it. It has lulls in the action where we get to see what soldiers do when they're recovering and see what happens when their recovery gets interrupted because, you know, shit hits the fan with the beginning of the Battle of the Bulge at Bastogne and all the gains that they had worked and fought for could potentially be gone. So what say you, Snowdub? What's your thoughts on this episode that you remember of?
You know, this is one of those episodes, if I remember correctly, it kind of builds up the pivotal points of Battle of the Bulge before they get into Belgium and Holland and all that. But I really loved the tactical scenes of this, you know, setting up the flanks and when they finally got over the hill and it just mowed down those Germans. Like that was such a surreal experience to kind of live through their eyes of what that would be like, you know, just having an open field of them like that and just kind of picking them off and the build up to that, you know, being stuck out there all night and just kind of the anxiety of it all. I mean, it was very surreal. And I love these episodes because they dive into the more personal issues of characters than you would see in your normal war movie. So that's what makes these all these episodes really special.
What about you, Brightest Day? What were your thoughts on this episode?
So, as we said before, this is a very cerebral episode. It's split very nicely between the action scenes and Winter's basically separation from the action. And a lot of it, I noticed this as an overarching theme, is trying to escape from what you've experienced. And Winter's, for all his, you know, his taking leave and writing this report and getting a desk job, can't escape. He can't escape the things that have happened in the last couple, you know, the last few encounters, and it weighs on him. And it's, you know, he looks at, we were talking about the train scene before. He looks at this kid in the back of the train, and he immediately flashes back to that unarmed SS that he just he instinctively hip shot. Like he just cannot escape what has happened to him.
Yeah, we'll actually be showing a clip of that here a little later. Wake Down, what are your thoughts on this episode and the overarching themes of the episode?
I thought it was very well written, well directed, well acted. Being a former soldier, I did have minor issues throughout, as I do when I watch anything of this nature, really. Speaking to what Brightest Day just said, for instance, I agree that we see that Winters can't escape, you know, what he's done, basically, to get to where he is, or to where they all are. But I also took away from that he doesn't want to escape. At the end of the day, he didn't want that desk job. He wants to be on the front line leading those men into battle. Where, you know, and I understand that. I didn't necessarily like the tactical plan of how they inevitably dealt with that SS battalion. I thought that was a bit ridiculous, but it worked for dramatic purposes and
Yeah.
to give the characters something to struggle with. So there's that. But overall, it was a great episode. I enjoyed it.
Yes, yes, this is the only episode so far that I have seen twice, and both times they have been very great. And on a technical issue with regards to video quality, watching on an HBO Max is okay. This whole entire series is one that screams, begs, and pleads to be remastered in either an 8 or 16K and then transitioned over to a 4K product. This is the product that would shine on that format so well if it had enough bit rate to do it. But so that's the technical side of things there. But moving on with the show, let me bring up some photos from it, and it is very hard. You get out there, you see these guys are just shooting off their gun just because they think there's no one else there to stop them, and then they get the Germans get caught off guard, get 8 to 10 of them plunked off during the night, and then in the morning, Winters realizes that they're severely outgunned. They're protected pretty well, but as you noted, the way it is, if he doesn't do the right thing at the right time, they run the risk of being overrun and completely decimated. From
well,
what
don't you feel like Winters? Yeah, like he weighed out all his options, and he just thought this is the best way to go.
Yeah, he pretty much, as he put it, he had no other choice. They had to take who they had already there into battle, even though potentially they if the Germans had realized what they had, they could have been outflanked and decimated.
Right, their position, the Germans' position, is on a high ground with natural cover. They have excellent visibility of the entire area. They can see a majority of the Allied moves as they're making them. It's a very, very risky venture to go try to attack this position.
Yeah, and I think that's what caught the Germans, completely off guard. They would just think a fool would attack us. There's no way they would attack us in the position we're in. And they got attacked, and they got nailed 2 battalions, not 1, and they were SS. They were the top. The killers
of the killers.
The most feared of them all. They were SS. And I love it when they grab them. They go immediately. The SS guy goes, "We're Polish." They weren't fooling anybody. But it just, that's what I mean by leadership. If you have a guy that just, you have the one guy from Office Space just sitting there. I mean, he just looked like he doesn't really care. Yeah, he just doesn't seem like, well, it's war. I'm sure we'll win. Where Winters knows how incredibly important every battle is. Everything is important. They got to the point where these guys ran out of ammo, and they were told by head command that hey, steal whatever you need to do, find ammo. I mean, that just
steal.
Borrow and steal. And I mean, think about that. I mean, that's terrifying.
Well, they eventually take their ammo from a passing company of wounded men.
Yeah, who got the living shit knocked out of them. Like, this is the image that sticks with Dick Winters. That when he's, that back then they call it shell shock. Today it's
post-traumatic stress.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, he ended up shooting, and you could tell the Germans were getting desperate because this guy looks like he's 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was a very young person.
And Winters knew that when he shot him, that was something that's going to haunt him. There he is on the trolley, and you could tell how the French, how they they were liberated. They're just beyond grateful, and just the smile. You can imagine being occupied by the Germans. How incredibly miserable that would be. Just I mean, hell on earth. Think about that, and to have these Americans there, just meant the world to this kid. Where he just sits there and he smiles, and he's just got a little bit of change in his pocket, and this is where Dick Winters suffers his first. He's got shell shock. He just he has that that image.
He has the flashback of what he had to do,
Yeah,
and
he loses time.
Yeah. Before we get too far into that, 'cause unfortunately these photos are out of order. I apologize, but there was one thing that was pointed out here by Dave Bob that we went in and were able to save the Red Devils, and that that whole thing. Market Garden. Let's just be truthful about it. It did not go the way that the planners and the thinkers and the envisioners thought it was going to happen. And being told that the British, their main force or their airborne or whatever set of divisions that they were, lost 8,000 soldiers in days. That's incredibly hard to fathom.
Okay, and that's something. And I talked to you this before, and I want your guys' opinion on this. Not too long ago, there were 13 American soldiers who sadly lost their lives, and that's horrendous. In World War II, if you lost 8,000 guys, it was suck. It was bad, but they knew that they were going to lose thousands of men. It was just you were put in a meat grinder.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on that, guys? Like, have we?
It's a different type of warfare back then. Numbers
more
are
like,
still. Yeah.
Well, you're fighting against a Reich.
Yeah.
Of men that were obviously. A lot of them were put on some kind of methamphetamine. I can't remember the type of speed that they were put on at the time, but they were basically forced to go days and days and days,
Yes.
Constantly push the pressure of their tanks and stuff. So it was such a force for us to go up against because we'd never experienced something like that before. We're literally fighting the Walking Dead. Zombies.
Wasn't it
kill mode?
Yeah, like you could have pretty much General Pablo Escobar run the place. I mean, what was it? I remember seeing where the Russians were saying for each German Panzer or Tiger, I'm not sure, it cost them 20 of their tanks.
Yeah.
And they were willing to do. They said yes. You got to remember in that war, the Russians lost 20 million men.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
They
so-
paid a huge price.
They almost lost Moscow, actually. They got really close.
Yeah, they got incredibly close. But that's what I mean, like how people back then were treated like, hey, you're going to go into war, and if a ship goes down, we lose 3,000 men. We lose 3,000 men. That's just war. Where today, if they said the Americans were attacked and they lost 10,000 men in battle,
Yeah, it's a bigger fraction. It's a much bigger percentage.
it would just be like, what are you talking about? We lost 10,000 men,
Well,
and women,
You said that you were active military. I want to thank you for your service to our country and to everything. I do.
I don't think they paid me.
No, you may have been paid, but you volunteered, and there's a lot of people that didn't, that both did volunteer and didn't volunteer that got tossed to the wolves, basically. Now, as far as our current military levels, the amount of people that are actually active, right now it's closer to like 1 million, 1.5 million, 2 million, somewhere in there, roughly.
Yeah, and China has 1 billion. Yes, go on.
Yeah, they've got 1 billion people and they can muster a 100 million man army. But at the time, the amount of men and the amount of everything needed to fight on two fronts, I haven't seen the numbers, but I would imagine that we had to have at least 2 million plus people ready, if not necessarily active in the theater, but ready to go in either one.
It was a different type of warfare.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
remember that.
We would still fight wars like that if it wasn't for the technological advantages that we've made in the decades since. That's the only thing stopping human beings from lining up on battlefields by the tens of thousands again is drones and artillery and carrier groups. That's how we fight wars now.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and I'm just going by people from who joined the military. I used to volunteer at a veterans hospital, and I also was a security guard at a veterans hospital. And the guy said when the war broke out, they were lining up. Okay, they were lining up to join because they didn't have pictures of or video or TV showing how incredibly brutal what you're signing up for. And that's when I believe Walter Cronkite, he showed a clip of Vietnam where it was American soldiers on the beach dead. And all of a sudden, that's when the draft was implemented about a month later, because there were a lot of American boys saying, yeah, I'm just not into it. It's not. And that's what this show, Band of Brothers, the hell that these guys went through, and they just, they stuck together. They were literally, I mean, if your brother was in a ditch bleeding, you would do anything in your power. You would give your life to get him out of there, and that's what the beauty of this show is. And I think that's, I worry we forget the sacrifice. This was a huge sacrifice because came this close of losing.
Yeah.
Could it,
Yeah.
and people
Had
don't.
things
people
gone
do-
just had things gone just one or two things differently at any point in time, we could have lost. Even with all the combined mights of all the militaries against the Germans, the Japanese, and the Italians, they pushed the rest of the world right to that breaking point. And I do want to talk about this gentleman here, a story that was relayed to us as far as
oh yes,
who he was. Yeah. If I wrote it down right, he's Private Alley. And the way that the show depicted him is almost depicted him. It depicted him of having an extreme hatred towards the Germans, almost to the point of fanaticism. Now, the way that the show was done, or it was explained, was it made it look like that maybe he was a Jew, but he wasn't. His parents were German and Austrian, but they were Roman Catholic. And with where he lived, or where his folks lived originally, it was a very heavy Lutheran area, and they were never left alone, basically, to practice practice the religion they want in peace. So they left, came to this country, and when all hell started breaking loose, he said that he had to go. He had to go and fight for his home country that would allow him to worship in peace without the fear of having reprisal brought upon him just because he happens to live in an area that's not strongly Catholic. And he was really wanting to take out some soldiers that had been captured, and Winter saw what he was planning to do.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't think people understand, that guys back then, if you came from a different country, they knew how beautiful the American dream was. Okay? So they joined the army because they wanted to fight for the good guys. I mean, they just said, this is my country now, and I'm gonna fight. I'm gonna fight for them. I mean, I've met. It's funny. I meet Italians in New York, and over here, if you ask, I'm in Canada. Look at me brag, eh? So you ask an Italian guy here, where you from? And his parents came from Italy, and he was born here. He'll say, "Well, I'm Italian," and I always say, "Well, no, you were born here. You're Canadian." You ask an American Italian where he's from, he'll never say. He'll go, "I'm American." It's just so you're so proud of your country, and that's why that gentleman, he knew how, if the Nazis were to ever get in power, it'd be the end of us all.
Yeah, if they would have won, everything that his parents fought for to get over here would have been in vain. So yeah, it's an interesting tidbit. And actually, as an interesting tidbit, Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, that's the only time I actually liked him, and I was hoping he was get shot.
You didn't like him in Corky Romano?
No, in real life. No, I shouldn't say that. That's going out live. We're gonna get nailed here. Fallon's watching. Kimball's just laughing, but Fallon's like, that son of a bitch. He's gonna get it. Yeah, that threw me off. Seeing him. But remember, they were so desperate for ammunition, and what? Remember when they were out, when they went? He was all pissed off when Winters was giving, hey, you get 3 days off, you get to go to France and relax for what, 2-3 weeks or 3-day pass or whatever.
2-day pass, yeah.
2-day pass. So, and what did I say to you? I said he's going to be a miserable bastard.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to enjoy any of this time. He's not. He just wants to be back because he knows how serious this is, and he thinks it's going to be a waste of time. Spending 2 days in France. So
you seem to enjoy the hot bath.
I would go for the prostitutes. I mean, I would just go absolutely cuckoo. I'd be like, guys, are you kidding me? I've been drinking your piss, and I can't do this. I'm going to go smoke cigarettes and watch cabaret. You could just see the joy in these guys when they're given those 2-day passes, and then when it gets taken away from them, how furious they are. They're like, what? They're like children. What are you talking about? And it's like, no, you don't understand. The Germans, they are throwing everything now at us. So you got to get your ass back to the front.
Back to France, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
I wouldn't get a maybe
Yeah.
I wouldn't get a prop. Yeah, that would be.
Well, Dick Winters didn't do that, but then again, he was pretty straight-laced. But I could see somebody like Nixon wanting to go, "Yeah, man, living it up while I can." Yeah, I'm fairly sure we all know somebody like that that's done things like that or would do something like that.
Wake down. You were in the military, and you said something right off the bat where you said you didn't like the way he attacked, but I liked the way he attacked. What didn't you like about that scene?
There's no tactical reason for him to have made his men wait, for him to drop red smoke, for them to run up a hill 100 meters behind him so that he can announce everyone's presence before they arrive and give the Germans an advanced chance to set up any sort of defense or reaction. They should have all charged up that hill at the same time and opened fire.
All right, go on. Sorry, he wants to ask. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead, Bryce.
During some research for this episode, I found out that scene is actually not historically accurate. That didn't happen. There was no red smoke grenade. They did charge it once. Winters got there first because he was just faster than everybody, but they did exactly what you wanted. They ran headlong all together, and there is a scene where you see Winters putting some like safety tape on one of his grenades. Turns out he goes when he gets to the end of the charge, he throws that grenade at an SS, but the tape is still on it, so it doesn't go off. And there's a grenade coming back at him, and neither one of those grenades goes off. And then the rest of the scene plays out. But the whole smoke thing is fabricated for the show.
Yeah, okay. So they did that for cinematic purposes,
dramatic
Which looks
effect,
great.
yeah.
But when you put those when you put the beret in and you charge, that has got to be absolutely terrifying, because you're fighting a guy now up close and personal. You know, I mean, you're killing somebody, or they're gonna kill you. You know, you could, as they say, the whites of their eyes. Well, now you can see the color of their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I found that scene just heroic. It just made me feel like it was a joyous thing. Yeah, and I know how you would take issue with that. Yes, of course, but just cinematic wise, I just thought how cool that was.
It works. It gives the scene a dramatic flair, and it's something that unless you have some sort of experience in that sort of thing in tactical combat, then you're not going to notice it. It's just going to play out as it played out, and it works fine.
Do you think that, like during some of the battle scenes, you know how some guys will, it's like, okay, let's charge. We all charge all at once. Do you think like nobody's going to like run the other way? There's that joke, I'm going to go the other way, they're going to go that way. I think when you're in a band of brothers, you're like, if I'm going to go with these guys.
Typically, before a battle ever starts, you know who you're there with. You live and eat and sleep and shower with all of these men. You become closer than family, and you know who's not the courageous type, who to keep an eye on, who might need a pep talk.
Right.
That sort of thing. But especially in World War II, y'all were talking about Russia lost 20 million men. That was largely self-inflicted. Russia would send men into combat without a weapon. Here, take this ammo and follow that guy around. And when he dies,
and if he drops, if he drops, you pick up his ammo. If he drops his gun, you pick up his gun. I mean, it was idiotic, and it's just so stupid. I saw that and I heard that, and what an idiotic way. It's just treating your men like, they did an awesome job with Chernobyl,
we actually
the meat grinder.
That on my channel a few months ago.
Pardon? Say again.
I said we actually covered that on my channel a few months ago.
Okay. All right. I'd like to see that, so I will check that out, because I found that. I remember waking up to that and absolutely terrified at what was going on. So, okay, so back to the episode. When they do get called back, all right.
Yeah, well, I do want to go ahead and show this clip from the episode where where Winters is on the train or the subway or whatever it is that they have, and the flashbacks that he occurs. And we'll stop here in a few moments and discuss what we're seeing, or what we believe is happening here. So make sure everything right. Yep. Okay, here we go. So he looks at the kid and starts recollecting about what had happened.
And it's not even just the kid, too. There's other things that he sees on his tram that trigger him and trigger memories.
Yeah. But do you see that he really does not want to make eye contact?
Mm-hmm.
That's a sign of, I don't want, because I remember a guy telling me a long time ago, You know, when you go to the mall or somebody's like, "Excuse me, sir, could I talk to you for 1 second?" The worst thing you could do is make eye contact, because then all of a sudden you're engaged.
Mhm.
Yep.
And you could tell he just does not want to engage with anybody. You know, because I he's got a good heart, and him even losing one man. Do you remember when he lost one man in that battle? They said we lost one guy, and you could see how that kind of just deflated him.
Mhm.
He lost one man, and the Germans lost over 50 men.
Yeah, he was extremely close to everyone. Even when he gets the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said 150 wounded, I think is what they said. 50 dead.
Yeah.
So even when he gets given the exo job, he still wants to maintain as close as contact as possible with his men that he can. So he's just, if something happens with the company, tell me, like, immediately. It's the first thing he does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
Stalin
continue.
was talk about a leader that was incompetent. Dave Bob gives a great. He's right on the money there. Stalin killed millions of his own. Yes, because he was an incompetent piece of garbage. All right, go on.
Let's continue the clip here.
Jeez.
Again, this is exactly where I think Damian Lewis and his acting style kind of fit this need of this scene perfectly.
And he knows where he's going.
Mm-hmm.
You could sense it when when you take a breath like that. It's like Al Bundy coming home just before he opens the door. He knows that. He knows the shit that's coming, and it's gonna go in his head.
Yeah, it's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, it's I've never been in the military. I don't suffer from PTSD or anything similar to it. But going your life without it, and then having something so traumatic happen to where now it just happens just at random times or at random places, I could see that being a mind killer, basically. And I can, I don't like it, but I can see why so many people that did come home after the various wars not able to readjust or able to live their life the way that they wanted to, ending up thinking that the only solution is the final solution. And it's disheartening, and it's sad to think about. But let's continue here. We're almost done with this season, or with this scene. Excuse me.
This just gets to me. It just gets to me. Because he's only 15. Maybe. And stop it for 1 sec.
Yeah.
You know what I think what was going through his mind there? I think that he was thinking that kid could have been born in Milwaukee. It depends on where you were born. That kid was born in Germany, so he had to go to war. That, I mean, you're fighting people that, as evil as we'd like to say they are, they're following orders, and they think they're doing the right thing. As I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. Any comments from you, Snowdub?
Oh, sorry, my mic was muted. At this point, you could really tell the trauma that he's been through. Everything that has built his character up to this point, all the battles going forward, and obviously the one where he shoots basically a kid, just shows you the the horrors of war, and how these are things you don't expect to happen, but they have to happen in order to, progress and win the war at hand. When the enemy is so ruthless, they're gonna send anything and everything at you, including young men like this. And as you can tell, he couldn't have been more than 14, 15 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a shocker moment that hits to the core for anybody who's been in that situation out on the field.
And
Yeah.
then there are other cases where they use actual children. I know
Yeah.
not in this particular thing, but
Right.
the Hitler Youth,
Yeah.
the Panzer
Yeah.
run around
There-
through the
there-
gardens,
there's this-
Panzer Shreks.
Yeah. There's this horrific picture of maybe the boy must have been 10 or something, and he's with a German that you could tell that has been in the army for at least 4 or 5 years, and he is screaming at the boy who's crying, and you could tell the suit doesn't even fit him. He's just, they're on this shithole of a hill, and it's a black and white photo, and it's just showed you how evil Hitler was, just absolutely fucking evil, just evil personified, and thankfully, he's been eradicated.
Him and everyone underneath of him too. It was more than just the one man. You have a slew of people who have this darkness in them that are
Yeah, you may have the one central figure, but within that one central figure, there's about a cabal of typically 20 or so people who have that same level of fanaticism as you, that are willing to do whatever it takes to accomplish that. And I do want to bring up another. Go ahead. Real quick.
No, sorry. Go on.
I do want to bring up on screen a little something that Snowdub wanted to share with us. Some family photos of what was it, your grandfather that served?
Yes. My grandfather.
Look at that.
He was part of what they call the combat engineers. They were the group that would come through and kind of have to rebuild bridges, that had been previously destroyed. Mostly, we did 2 tours. He did a tour in Africa first, where he got shut in the buttocks and got some rest.
Shouldn't laugh, but yeah,
I know. Yeah. Well, he got the Purple Heart, but he came back and
he got more than a Purple Heart. He got a red ass.
Yeah, that too. But he came back and fought again, and that's him on the left with the old 6-shooter on his hip. And I believe this is in, I want to say it's Belgium or Holland, where he's first. They're kind of first infiltrating there and taking over. I love this picture of him, but this one will shock everybody here in the chat a little bit. And
oh wow,
this is after they had actually infiltrated Germany, and they had captured stuff, and he wanted to pose next to a captured flag, one of their flags. So this is just one of those moments where you look at it now, of course, with today's type of tempo, people look at this and be like, what, freak out on it. But yeah, back then it was kind of like a trophy, for them to capture these flags, and a lot of them would take them home and keep them as souvenirs, just because it was such a nasty force they were fighting against. Every flag captured meant something, it was a big deal. And
yeah.
One quick little story about my grandfather, and there was a few that he did get frostbite. When we go into this is kind of a great lead into the next episode, the next showing that we're going to do. I believe it's episode 6. When the cold set in, and with the winters, they were doing the Battle of the Bulge right in the middle of December. He had frostbite. He had permanent damage in his toes. One story that stuck out to me that I heard about, not from him directly, because he didn't really like to talk about it. He had night terrors and stuff, but from my uncle, he told me there was a time where he just, they were all kind of settling in for a lunch break or whatever, and because they were so low on supplies and just they didn't have like folding chairs sitting around or anything, he had no place to sit, basically, to sit down and eat his lunch, except a pile of frozen German bodies. So he sat down on top of a pile of frozen bodies and had his lunch.
Wow.
And it was stuff like that was just normal. just an everyday thing for them as they were progressively pushing forward into Germany. So, but yeah, my grandfather, he lived through the war, but not without being taxed, because, like I said, he had pretty bad PTSD. Back then they called it shell shock.
Yes.
And night terrors. He had really bad.
Did he drink a lot? Because a lot of the men back then drank like fish.
Yeah, it actually killed him. He drank so much. He was a hard liquor drinker that it ended up giving him cancer. So
Right.
he died at a pretty young age. 72, I believe, is how old he was when he died. And unfortunately, I was only like 13, 14 at the time. I wish he would have lived another 10, 15, because as I got to know World War II and the history of it better as I got older, I wanted to know more about him. Unfortunately, all his records burned up in a major fire that happened with a bunch of World War II records. And I want to say it happened in Kansas, but I might have to fact check that. There was a major fire that happened with one of the World War II records station. So a lot of his operations that he did were burned up.
So he ate, like, this is kind of freaking me out. He ate he had a meal on a couple German bodies.
Yes, frozen.
That's like Hannibal Lecter.
He didn't eat the bodies themselves. He had his lunch.
No, I know. He made. In other words, he made a Steinway out of them and had a meal.
This
like
is one of his more tame
that is,
stories.
That. Oh yeah, I worked with again with the veterans, and the stuff that they tell me. It's kind of,
you could go bald basically if you're not careful. That's that harrowing.
Yeah, well, it's stuff where you just sit there and go, you question it, going, is that true? And yeah, it is true. It is true.
And then you think about the possibility of the things they don't tell you because they don't want to air it out into the void.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, yeah. Because you do not want to, these guys. I remember talking to the doctor. He would come in once a week and check on the veterans. And he said it's like pulling teeth to tell. These guys are so proud that they're not going to tell you anything.
Yeah, I do want to add one thing here, just two quick ones, and I can second what's said on the other. Izas said that his grandpa was a sergeant major of the engineer in the Pacific. Great pictures of him standing in front of City Hall in Hiroshima post-bomb. And Justin of the Red Shirt added, he probably survived because of the atomic bombs. I can tell you, my family does have a pretty deep history with those who served in World War II. Grandpa on one side of the family, uncles from the other side of the family. My uncle that did serve in the Pacific got shot up 3 times, and I believe he's either a 2 or 3-time Purple Heart recipient. They refused to discharge him because of his injuries. They were pretty severe, and later in his life, that it basically ended his life 10, 15 years sooner than it should have. They told him that they were saving him for the invasion of Japan, and at that time, they were best guess, that if we had to go on with the full invasion, we would lose somewhere in the neighborhood of a million soldiers, and that the deaths of the Japanese would have been in the tens of millions, if not into the 100 of million. So
remember, there's no word in Japanese for surrender. There's no such word.
That's why they did the kamikaze missions towards the end there, because they knew they were losing and they had no other choice but to just fly their planes straight into the ships.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Want to welcome back Pat S.
Great.
Take us home, brother.
Thanks, guys. Looking good. And yes, that is true. Gogo, you're not wrong about the numbers. As a matter of fact, the Australians were even thinking about allowing kids who are 16 and a half to start a longer boot camp, so that by the time they turned 17 and had graduated, they would have been through combat school and everything and ready in preparation for that invasion. And as many people have noted throughout the last few days in chat, it wasn't until recently that we had used up the World War era Purple Hearts, because they had made so many in preparation for that there was just a stockpile of them. And Snow, I want to let you know this too. I know this for a fact. they are rebuilding a lot of those records. Your grandfather's records were probably lost in that huge 1973 VA fire, and right in the outskirts of St. Louis, Missouri,
Holy
is where
shit,
those are
Pat! You
lost.
know,
Yeah,
Right.
and
you know your stuff there.
it was a tremendous. Well, my father was in the service at the time, interestingly enough, and he had busted up his leg, and he was working both as a quartermaster and was kind of handling a lot of the back and forth with personnel records. And they were actually having to rebuild, believe it or not, guys from Vietnam's records after that fire. Because think about it, if you got out in 71 or 72, your records probably were sent over to St. Louis, especially if you were on the western side of the Mississippi for the Marine Corps. A lot of those records went there. So no doubt about it. But
Yeah.
gentlemen, I guess let's just do some final thoughts, both on the episode and the series. And
Okay, just one. I just want to say
Yeah.
something really quick.
Sure.
I worked at the as a security guard at the Veterans Hospital, and okay, it was all Canadian soldiers, okay, that fought in World War II, and a German who didn't speak a word of English. They didn't know what to do with him. The family said, he needs to be at the Veterans Hospital, and there was a big uproar with staff. Saying, he can't be here with the Canadian soldiers. He can't, it's just, they fought, they killed, it was a massacre. So we had a meeting in the little cafeteria, and I just said to the veterans, do any of you have a problem with, if any of you have a problem with these German coming to stay here, let us know. And if one of you complain that you don't want him here, he won't be allowed in here. Not one veteran said it bothers me that he's here. They said it's fine. It's totally fine. I found that incredible.
Yeah, that's generally how it was. I think it's a begrudging respect. I would have to kind of let maybe the veteran of the group address that a little bit and tell me what he thinks about that. But I would think, especially with the Germans, there was at least a different level of respect, and certainly they were not wonderful in their treatment of prisoners of war, but they did a lot better job of following the Geneva Convention than certainly the rest of the Axis did. Even the Italians didn't do a very good job of feeding people and stuff. But no, I can believe that. I could see that.
It was I remember it was a very moving moment. I was just,
yeah, I'm sure.
I thought that's
good for
just
them.
beautiful.
Good for them. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, Brightest Day. Just in thoughts of the episode.
It's actually good timing. The end moments of the episode kind of sum up the series as a whole for me. When they're watching these men that they're coming to replace feeling downtrodden and defeated, and they're taking what they can from them, and then Damian Lewis utters this line that always lives with me when I think about this series: "We're paratroopers, sir. We're supposed to be surrounded."
Yeah.
Every single time I hear that line, it pulls at my heart, and it just sums up the whole series for me.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. Snow, what about you?
This episode was a good one. I got others that I like more. The following episode is one of my favorites, so I look forward to that. That one takes place in the snow, and it's just a great episode. So
Yeah.
make sure you tune into the next one. But an afterthought, I breed and raise Dobermans. I'm on my third generation. If you're interested, look up Dobermans and their activity in World War II. They had a huge presence over in the Pacific, and there's actually a memorial built for them for the Dobermans that served over in Guam. They actually helped us defeat the Japanese by taking over a lot of islands, because before we were using them, we had to basically sneak up the side of the islands, and we were getting picked off by snipers and stuff. Burrowed in, brought the Dobermans in, and we taught the Dobermans to lay down once they smelled the Japanese, not bark, lay down, and they saved countless lives going into that war. So I always like to tip my hat to the Doberman Pinscher, and I love the breed, and I always feel kind of honored knowing that all of our Dobermans are stock from the World War II veteran dogs, and before that from the Germans. That used them against us in World War I, and they tried to actually kill them off, and that's how we got a hold of them. Is we stole a bunch of their dogs before they could eliminate them all. So anyway,
Cool deal. Very interesting. Every little fact is, it never amazes me how there's still new information that you could find out just by investigating. Wake Down, thoughts on the episode as a whole and just in general.
I thought it was a very enjoyable episode. It was a good midway point. It's been a very long time since I rewatched this series, and so I'll probably continue rewatching it to its conclusion. Appreciate y'all bringing that back to my attention. But yeah, to speak to the thought on the soldiers in the hospital, there's an understanding between soldiers of any flag that at the end of the day you're all just doing a job, following orders that were given out by people who have never seen a battlefield. And so, I mean, a wounded man is a wounded man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely recommend the series to anyone who hasn't seen it. It's one of the most accurate portrayals of war in World War II that you'll find on a dramatic scale, filled with great casting choices. That'll surprise you, like Fallon. I didn't expect to see Fallon in this, and so yeah, excellent.
Yeah, great, neat little aside for sure. Gogol?
Yeah, everything about this has been absolutely enjoyable. You know me. I'm not a huge person when it goes to these things, but taking the time to dive into this show, I missed it the first time around. I'd never watched it up until now. I need to have my ass kicked for not seeing this sooner and talking more with some of my family when they were still alive about it. And this has been a very humbling experience and a very great experience to be able to see this, even with some of the inaccuracies, still having it be the most accurate out of anything that's ever been done. And my respect for everybody that served and everybody that sacrificed to take down the Reich and to take down the Japanese it's massive. And I do want to highlight one last thing here real quick. There is footage of Civil War veterans shaking hands after the war was done. And yes, humanity does it has to find a way after a war. It has to. And fortunately for us, we did find it. Right. We did find it with the Japanese. We did find it with the Germans. We found it with the Italians. And eventually we were able to overcome the Iron Curtain.
Yes, sir.
So.
Well, Vito, we have a little bit of housekeeping we have to do, but we do have a minute or two if you'd like to kind of give us your thoughts on the episode as a whole. And
yeah, the episode to me, there was so much into it. But to me, again, I stress leadership. How important it is to have the right person in charge. You will not go into battle. Well, if you go into battle with an idiot, you're screwed. But at least if you're going to battle and you've got a guy like Dick Winters, you're like, if I die, I die. But at least he thought of he's trying his best to look after me and my brothers, and that's what I got out of it. His humanity, how much he cared. Even when he shot the German soldier, how much that bothered him. War is hell, folks. We all think it's glorious. We all, when we were kids, we played with army men and blah, blah, blah. We watch these shows and we realize, and we have someone that's a veteran here. It is hell. It is pure hell. So
yes.
Leadership is the most important thing. to have. That's
Thank
what I
you,
got.
Vito. I appreciate that, sir. So we'll end up with let everybody tell us if they have anything going on, any place they're going to be in the next week or so, and their shows coming up. But I just wanted to once again thank you all for coming on. I want to thank everybody who's knocked out the first week. You could go back and watch Paulie's episode 4. Wednesday night was Echo-based television. Ramblin' Canuck started us out on R&R with the Tuesday night show, and of course at the very, very beginning, Loki's Mornings of Mischief. He still has his episode up too. Next week, starting on Monday, we're going to have Purple Valkyrie, and she's going to be hosting a pivotal episode, probably Snowdub's personal favorite also, which is Bastogne, which has Eugene Rowe in it. So that's a special episode for me too, because Eugene and we can pretty much see each other's house from where we live. He's a South Louisiana boy. But next week is going to be great. Gogo 13 is going to have an episode. Foulball Productions, Matt is going to host the Thursday night. And then I'm not going to announce yet. I'm going to let this come up next week. But this is just a taste. Friday nights I know are terrible for everybody. If you can chisel out some time, join us, because Pop Culture Minefield's going to have Mexican Iron Man and a couple other people will join him, and a very important person who has been involved both with a cast member, a person who is a military historian, and somebody who works at the production of military television and movies will also be joining. I'm going to let that person announce it because they did the work to get them there. But that'll be on Pop Culture Minefield's show. He'll be wrapping it up for us next Friday. But there again, gentlemen, thank you. And there's a little give back to you. If you want to let us know what's going on, Vito, I know you're working on some new stuff. But you can tell everybody about a little bit about what you have on your channel already so they can start familiarizing themselves with your work, sir. Go ahead.
I'm working on Pat, can I tell them about the True Crimes?
Sure, dude. It's an exciting thing. Let them know.
I'm working, me and Pat are he's going to be producing a show, True Crimes, Unsolved Mysteries of people that have disappeared and hopefully if we get the word out to enough people that these people can be found. So absolutely. I'm honored that Pat is
thank you, Vito.
my gunner.
Well, I'm glad, and the Fellowship could use a true crime person. We already have a great anime person and the best puppet show on YouTube already in the Fellowship. So I think we could really look forward to that, sir. What about you, Gogo 13? You got something going tomorrow, or?
Yeah, I've got Gogo 13's Anime 101 tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to be hosting a longtime friend of our friend Loki. His name is Zeropium. He is a complete and total noob when it goes to anime. We're talking even more than you, Vito. He has nothing. So this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to talk about the show Berserk, the original 97 anime, and we're going to talk about a little crossover stuff that happened about 10 years ago with Marvel having some anime done for Wolverine and for the X-Men. And it's one that I've never seen, so I'm going to watch a few of those. That, for me, not necessarily my jump-off point, but for somebody that has zero experience with anime, but does have experience with American comics, there is the common ground that we can build upon to then show others, the greatness that is Japanese animation, because it is a hell of a lot of fun. So 1 p.m. Eastern, hope to see you there. Thank you.
Very nice. And I caught that little pun with the zero. I dig that. The Wake Down, sir. You are everywhere and anywhere, and I know you have your own stuff going. You have anything big coming up in the next week or two?
You can always check out my channel for new content every 2 or 3 days. It's a grab bag as to what you're going to get. You might get a live stream, you might get a compilation video, you might get comedy. But yeah, you can find me at youtube.com/thewakedown, no spaces or dashes, and see you there.
Yeah, great, my friend. Don't be a stranger. I know. Sometimes you're on the outskirts, but you're always welcome in anywhere you see us. You know that you got a buddy. That's for sure. Brightest Day, the busiest man on. Brightest Day and I running into each other. There could be 5 live streams going on, and I'll be popping in and out of them. And Brightest Day will probably be in at least 4 of them. So, where are you going to be, sir? You have anything big going on? You guessing with anybody in the next week or two, or?
Well, I'm hoping to be part of next Friday's episode of this review. I would really, really appreciate being let back in. I know you mentioned it. Other than that, you can find me here at Brightest Day. Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday nights is booked with Brightest Day, where I read sci-fi novels to you. Tuesday nights, I build models on my model building stream, and I'm part of the Mobile Suit Gundam Roundtable on Ironcaster's channel. Thursday nights is my dedicated gaming stream and my favorite segment of the week, where I am on Supreme Heretics Pegasus Actual Podcast, our retro review of the reimagined Battlestar Galactica series.
Oh, geez, I'm watching that one for sure.
Dude, I had no idea you were on that. You've now. What am I going to do? My Wednesday nights are already full. I'm going to make time.
It's Thursday night.
And of course, my newest friend, who doesn't even know he's my newest friend, Mexican Iron Man's like, you have to go check out Snow Dub. I'm like, I am not going to go watch a puppet show. I am a grown man. And good Lord, I'm watching like episodes from a year and a half ago, like a crazy person. Snow Dub, what do you have going on, sir? Please plug away. You've earned it.
Did you get hooked on the puppets? Is that what happened, Pat?
I did, sir. And you know what? Actually, I found when I first searched you, I was like, oh, look, he's on my favorite person in the world show, Purple Valkyrie, and she's hysterical, dude. I mean, Jolly and her, I don't know how Jolly and her aren't dating. I guess it's because of the ocean. But after that, I was like, I'm hooked, man. I'm hooked.
Well, Purple is actually kind of sweet on Puff, so there's that whole dynamic. True. But Puff doesn't know where he's at half the time. So, but you can find out. Just come on over, hang out with us every Saturday night. We do the Tuck and Roll show. It's kind of a late night show, but there's a reason for that. It's like the Muppets kind of mixed with the Man Show.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's a little bit NC-17 type of thing. Yeah, but maybe 13 and up. But anyway, go ahead.
Is it kind of like puppetry of the penis?
There's lots of peen jokes, and there's a little.
No, I have to watch that. I will watch that. That is wonderful.
There's both double and single entendre, sir. So,
and we're bringing on our new co-host this weekend. I'm pretty excited about that. So we're gonna have a lot of fun. It's basically just to let loose and crack some jokes. Gogo's been on there. He knows what's up. And come hang out. Join the Cotton Connection. That'll be tomorrow night. So
and as busy of a guy as Snow as he actually even makes time to do some guest shots and stuff. And we appreciate that too, buddy. So that said, thank you, gentlemen. Great stream.
Thank you. It was an honor meeting all you guys.
Yeah, and guys, just watch the Twitter feed. We'll be there. And don't forget, next Monday, she's going to have some guests. Certainly Dave Bob, who is I love Dave Bob. He's such an expert on this show and all. He's going to be joining her. A couple other people on Purple Valkyrie's channel. Same time, 7 Central. And you guys have a great weekend and enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you in a few days.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's been an honor.
Good night.
Thank you. Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night.